Peter Dewey alongside. I'm Ben Heisler. Also, shout out to JJ, our producer, as well. Peter, Merry Christmas to you, man. Excited to be able to go over the slate with you. I did not have my ugly Christmas sweater. I did not have my jersey of Chicago Bulls because they're not playing on Christmas. So I brought my ugly Hanukkah sweater. It's a little Larry David, pretty good Hanukkah. As we're in the middle of 8 crazy nights right now. But good to see you. I know you're excited for a lot of these games as well.
Yeah, happy holidays, man. I'm super excited. NBA Christmas Day is like one of my favorite days of the year, obviously because it's Christmas Day. But as an NBA fan, it's just nonstop basketball, and normally we're getting great matchups. So extremely excited for that. My favorite tradition is watching the Knicks get smoked at 12 o'clock. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. They've been playing really well lately. So got my hopes up coming into this game for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting. So it sounds like your family tradition, you guys are very good at being able to put on the NBA games. I live in Kansas City. My wife grew up here. They're big college basketball fans. So sometimes getting the NBA on in a college household is a little bit more difficult, but it's certainly going to be on because the 3 NFL games that are on, not too great. So a really exciting slate to be able to break down. Here's what we're going to do over the course of today's show. It's a little bit different than your traditional daily bet slip. Peter and I are going to go through all 5 games on the slate. We're going to go through the injuries that you need to know, the latest spreads, money lines, and over-unders for these games. Don't forget that this is not a traditional live show today. This is pre-recorded here on Thursday, the 22nd. So again, one thing that we'll make aware of to all of you guys is that there's still a potential for a lot of line movement between now and Christmas Day ahead of these matchups. So we're going to go through what you need to know as far as when these injuries might eventually be released, announced, and then what you can expect from a lot of these totals. However, sometimes there's opportunities to jump on these numbers at a much better price than you can get right now compared to at Christmas Day. So something to consider as well. Also, once this video is done, definitely encourage you guys to stay with us over on the YouTube BetSided channel. Our own Ian McMillan has his NBA Christmas Day betting video that you guys can check out. A lot of different trends to be aware of, some of his best bets as well. Plenty of NBA coverage across the board. So Peter, let's dive into it because there's a lot of different trends, a lot of different things for us to be able to consider. But I do want to start with the first game on the schedule. Let's start with your New York Knicks. They are at home. Once again, it has been a tradition unlike any other, watching them lose on Christmas Day. However, they got a win last year against the Atlanta Hawks, a little bit of a revenge game from the playoff appearance from a few years back. Right now, the line kind of varying a little bit. It's looking like it's anywhere between 2 and 2.5 as the Sixers on the road are favorites in the Garden. Looking at the total for this game, anywhere between 219.5. A couple books have it down to 218. So let's start with some of the injuries to be aware of. Anything on either side that either has you concerned or possibly offers up a mismatch over the course of the first game on the NBA slate?
Yeah, there's a big one on the Sixers side. Tyrese Maxey, I'd be shocked if he played in this game. December 15th, Doc Rivers at a press conference said that Maxey was going to be out a few more weeks. So he's probably out for this game. But the big one I think that's actually going to have an impact is on the Knicks side. Quentin Grimes missed Wednesday night's game against the Raptors with a sprained ankle. The Knicks play the Bulls on Friday, so we'll kind of have a better look at his status if he plays in that game or if he doesn't. But he's extremely important to this team. He's been a big part of their run recently. He's also their best perimeter defender. So he's probably going to be the guy who draws the James Harden matchup. So I think Quentin Grimes' status has a huge impact on this game because if you're betting on either side in this game, if Quentin Grimes is playing, it probably gives a little bit more of an edge to the Knicks. If he doesn't play, the Sixers are, if they stay at that, -2 number, probably a pretty solid bet. The Knicks started Emmanuel quickly in his place yesterday. They ended up bringing Derrick Rose back into the rotation. So I think that's an injury to watch out for just because for Philly, I mean, James Harden going up against anybody who's not your best perimeter defender, probably a good sign for them. They played fantastic since he came back. So that's the one I'm looking at for sure in that game.
As far as an actual prediction and pick goes for this game, I'm leaning under for a couple of different reasons. First of all, again, similar tradition to the Knicks losing on Christmas Day is unders in the early games have been extremely profitable over the last several years between noon and 5 p.m. I know that it's started to shift a little bit as far as actual unders on Christmas Day, but if you actually go and take a look at how things have gone in the early games, they're 27-11 against the spread, and the only under that ended up hitting last year was the Hawks and Knicks in the early tip. But again, kind of what you just mentioned, these are also two really slow-paced teams that are going up against each other. So I look at this matchup purely from the standpoint of you're going to see a lot of half-court offense, especially down the stretch. There's going to be a lot of isolation plays. Knicks defense, especially over their last 10 games, has been significantly better. So not only am I looking at the under of 219.5 beat, but I'm also looking for one of my standard first quarter bets. The Knicks, other than a couple nights ago when they struggled and gave up one in that first quarter game on Wednesday night, still a matchup for them where I think they can win the first quarter at only -105. Philly's going to be a slight favorite. The Knicks, other than the Brooklyn Nets over the last 10 games, have been the best net rated first quarter team in the NBA at home. And I also think you can use that as a parlay with the first quarter under a 55.5. So you can either bet them separately, you can tie the two of them together, probably around plus 240, plus 250 odds. But the Knicks have been so consistent and so reliable throughout the season, especially at home in the first quarter, especially parlaying them with that under. That's probably going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate for this week.
I like that quite a bit. Julius Randle's been one of the best first quarter players in all of the NBA this year. That's a guy, if you're ever looking to bet a first quarter points prop, he is one of the guys there. He is has doubled the amount of points, I think, of any other Knicks player in the first quarter this season, which is absolutely crazy. And he's been playing well lately. I like your underplay a lot, Ben. I'm actually going under in this game too, is where my early lean is here. Couple crazy stats here for the Knicks. So Knicks are top 10 in pace early in the season. They've fallen all the way back to 18th over their last 10 games. They've moved all the way back to the 18th spot on the season. So they've really slowed things down. Part of that has been the shortening of their rotation. They've kind of changed the way that they're playing basketball. They're playing more defensive-minded basketball. They replaced Cam Reddish and Derrick Rose, two offensive-minded players, for defenders like Miles McBride. So they've slowed games down. Also, the Knicks so far this season, 17, 14, and 1 on unders. And these two teams, number 3 and number 9 in defensive rating so far this season. So two teams that can really get after it on the defensive end. As we mentioned, this is a close spread right now. It's just Philly by 2. So if we're going to see a close game, both these teams are going to want to play in the half court down the stretch. If you watch either of these teams down the stretch, it's straight isolation in these games. So that leads to long possessions. It's going to be Harden holding the ball, Embiid holding the ball, Brunson and Randle holding the ball. So if you're anywhere around this number coming in the fourth quarter and it's a close game, we're probably all set on the under. And I just think that the thing, it's a kind of a tired legs on these early morning games. You see it time and time again. Happened to the Knicks last year. I just think the under is the way to go here. I think we're going to see a slog. Philly's bottom 5 in the league in pace. I just don't see this game getting out of hand unless, somebody pulls off a blowout. And even in that case, you might not see the other team score enough to push this over.
You mentioned Philly's paces numbers. They have the 4th slowest pace on the road in the first quarter this year, 29th overall in pace on the road over their last 10 games. As far as the Knicks go, 4th slowest pace at home in their last 10 games, both as well in the lower portion of the league, as you mentioned, all the way to 18th when it comes to some of their home pace, how they've transitioned over the last several games. So that's game 1 on the slate between the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers at MSG. Let's move on to the 2:30 p.m. Eastern game. Los Angeles Lakers, again, another opportunity for LeBron James to play on Christmas. They are on the road in Dallas. Again, another game that's seen a little bit of movement since some of these lines opened up. The opening total, Peter, for this game was 218.5. It's moved all the way up in most sports books to 225.5. So we've seen a ton of movement towards the over from the initial lines. In fact, some books have even taken it off the board. I know that Caesars, for one, had taken it off by the time we were recording our show. We'll see whether or not they reopen it at a similar type of number. As far as the spread, you can kind of find it in a couple different areas. It opened up with the Mavericks as 4.5-point favorites. But again, that's changed a lot too, given the injury status of Anthony Davis. Now it's anywhere between Mavericks -8 to Mavericks -7.5. I mentioned the Anthony Davis news, not really a surprise as far as his unavailability, but who else do either the Lakers or the Mavericks have to be concerned about with not playing on Christmas Day?
Yeah, few injuries on both sides. I'd assume LeBron's going to play in this game. He's been kind of on the injury report all season long for different things. He sat out a game against the Suns earlier this week, but I'd assume he's going to play. Key one for the Mavs, Dorian Finney-Smith missed their last game. He was ruled out on Wednesday. So he's probably one of their better defenders, might draw the LeBron matchup. So that's a guy to continuously watch. And then Russell Westbrook also was ruled out of the Lakers last game on Wednesday night. So if Russell Westbrook doesn't play, this Lakers offense is already bad. People can say what they want about Russell Westbrook, but he makes them a better team when he's on the floor just for scoring standpoint now without Anthony Davis. So those were both two guys I would really watch. Obviously, the line has just moved so much because AD's out, and it just makes sense because the replacements for the Lakers behind him, Thomas Bryant, Damian Jones, they just don't really have the bodies to replace him. So it's going to be interesting to see where this kind of ends up, because I think that Dallas might get bet closer to like 9, maybe even 10, just with how banged up the Lakers are right now.
So this makes it a bit interesting as far as trying to determine where to wager on this game, because you actually have 2 of the bottom 5 teams against the spread in the NBA this year. Dallas, the only team that's been worse than them against the spread has been the Miami Heat. Dallas is 11, 19, and 2 against the spread. They're covering at a 36.7% clip with an against the spread plus minus of almost 2. They've been a terrible team against the spread, and they've also had a lot of bad situational basketball games at home down the stretch as well. They play at a slower pace. Sometimes, especially when Luka leaves the court, there's really no defense inside, although he doesn't play a whole lot of defense as well. And then you have the Lakers, a team that traditionally is a bit of a public team. Not so much this year, but they've also been bad against the spread as well. 12, 19, and 0, covering just under 39% of the time. However, their against the spread plus minus is substantially better. They actually rank in the top 15 of the league at plus 0.6. So they've actually been much closer as a covering team this year, Pete, compared to Dallas. And I got to be honest, as far as looking at this game collectively, the move from 4.5 to 8, certainly sizable. But if Russ is there, if LeBron, certainly, obviously, if LeBron is not playing in this game, I really don't want anything to do with it because of how inflated the spread's going to be. But given his history on Christmas Day, he's put up monster numbers over the last several years. If you're looking at what he did last year against Brooklyn, 39 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. The previous year, 22, 7, and 10 against Dallas. Against the Clippers, 23, 9, and 10. The year before, 17, 13, and 5. Like, he's consistently, for his points, rebounds, and assists, been like 35 to 45 on sort of like an average spectrum here. So I think LeBron continues to play well. These are games that are significant to him. And I don't see a scenario, because of how many times the Mavs have let teams into games, especially in their home building this year, that an 8-point spread, I think LeBron, even if they're missing some guys, could still hang around and cover this number. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm going the other way. I'm probably going to take Dallas in this game. There's a couple things I'm looking at. Lakers are 3-11 against the spread as road dogs this year. They've been terrible away from Crypto.com Arena. And Dallas hasn't been good at home. They're 5-10-1 against the spread. I'm not as a home favorite. So that's not what I'm strictly basing this off of. But the Lakers without Anthony Davis have been absolutely brutal this season. They were brutal last year. They were 16-26 without him.
Yeah.
This year, they're 2-4. Their 2 wins are against the Spurs, who have the worst net rating, worst team probably in the NBA, and the Wizards. They won by 2, who are 25th in the NBA in net rating. Dallas is a much better team than that. And all 4 of the losses in the games that Davis has missed this year have been by 9 or more points. The concern I have for the Lakers here is just offensively, I just don't know where they get the points from. Even if Russ plays, I just don't know how they're going to keep up offensively. Luka Doncic and LeBron are probably just going to trade blows this entire game. I'm not going to discount how good LeBron's going to play, but the difference is in the role players. You look at Dallas so far this season, they're 3rd in the NBA in 3-pointers made per game. Lakers are dead last. So my issue here is if Dallas shoots the 3 well, which they've shot the ball much better. The role guys, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, if he plays, have shot the ball better at home. Spencer Dinwiddie, Josh Green. If that holds up, I just don't know where the Lakers are going to be able to make up these points. Like, outside of Lonnie Walker and LeBron, they don't really have anybody who's been knocking down shots this year. Austin Reeves hasn't shot as well as they probably would have liked. Kendrick Nunn has certainly not shot as well as they would have liked. So I think Dallas is the play here, just because I just don't trust the rest of this Lakers roster. If you want to take a player prop, I'd probably lean something on LeBron just because he does show up in these games. But
right.
I can't sit here and bet on the Lakers knowing that when LeBron's out of the game, they might just get boat raced right out of the gym. Yeah,
perfectly reasonable take. Again, it just feels like a really large number. And given Dallas's inability to be able to cover some of these games, I get it, because if they're going to be outnumbered like that, LeBron can only do so much. But I still have some concerns about the Mavericks as far as whether or not they're going to be fully healthy coming into this game as well. And given both teams' inability really to cover over the course of the entire season, 8 points to me almost makes me want to lean in favor of a heavy underdog, especially the one that has a player that's done very, very well on Christmas Day. You mentioned the player prop. I'm going to be very curious as to where a lot of these books open up for LeBron James's points, rebounds, and assists, because I think that one's going to be bet up. So if you like the over there, you're probably going to want to get on the earlier side rather than on the later side. All right, we've gone through two games. We've gone through the 76ers and Knicks, the Lakers and the Mavericks. Both Peter and I are on the side of the under. In the first game between Philadelphia and New York, we like the under at 219.5. As far as the Lakers and Mavericks go, Peter is on Mavericks at -7.5, which you can find. I'm on the Lakers at +8, and depending on where they release the lines, I also like the over on LeBron James's points, rebounds, and assists. The game that, of all five of them, Peter, might be the most intriguing of them all, although both of these teams have not been playing particularly good basketball of late. The Milwaukee Bucks head to Boston to take on the Celtics. Celtics are a 4-point favorite. Again, depending on where you look, and a lot of these different lines tend to go back and forth a little bit. You can also find the total in this game at a lot of different spots. It's anywhere between 220 to 223. Some even have it at 223.5. So depending on where you want to be able to find value or where you perceive it, you're going to want to shop around on this game as well. As far as injuries goes, Peter, where do we need to be concerned? What do we need to keep our eye on?
Yeah, key player on each team. We'll start with Boston. Marcus Smart missed their game on Wednesday against the Pacers. They got destroyed in that game, and Tyrese Haliburton went off. So obviously, guard defense, a little bit of a concern if he doesn't play. He is not seriously hurt. I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to return for this game. On the Bucks side, though, Chris Middleton has missed a couple games now with a knee injury. He was ruled out yesterday, pretty early in the day, so it doesn't sound like he's extremely close to returning. He's the guy you got to keep an eye on for the Bucks. Obviously, they're a much better team if he plays. Offensively, they need him. The Bucks are a bottom 15 team in offense this year, which is crazy because they have the best record in the NBA. But losing Chris Middleton, they just don't have as many scoring options to mitigate that. They got blown out by the Cavs last night. So those are the two guys to watch. I think Middleton matters a little bit more than Smart does, but at the same time, Boston's defense does kind of run through Smart controlling things at the point. So both those guys are going to be important before you bet on this game.
It was pretty remarkable given how good Boston had been over the bulk of the season. It really seems like since they went on this towards the tail end of their West Coast road trip, they've really fallen apart, including some games where they've gotten off to just atrocious starts. This was the best first quarter net rated team by a mile at the start of the season and pretty much through the middle of December. But over the last 2 weeks, they have not been a team that you can trust either on the road or at home in the first quarter. You mentioned that game against the Pacers. Not having Marcus Smart on the court is a big deal, and it almost seems like it kind of let them down defensively, which is an area that Boston has been so good and so consistent over the course of really the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, they need Marcus Smart. Having to put Derek White or Malcolm Brogdon into the starting lineup, it shortens their rotation. The Celtics already have a short rotation. Ben, I might just go into my best bet right here because it's kind of what I'm talking about. Boston shot the ball so well to start the season. Obviously, they were the best record in the NBA. They were winning games, but they're relying on some guys, Grant Williams, Sam Hauser, occasionally Peyton Pritchard. They're not going to – Al Horford even. They're not going to shoot 40, 45% for an entire season. It's eventually going to regress to the mean. And the crazy part is basically from the second half of last season through the playoffs, through the start of this season, all those guys shot above their pay grade. And it's kind of come crashing down over these last 2 weeks. Not saying that's going to become the norm for the Celtics, but the regression is starting to finally catch up to them. These guys are decent shooters. Obviously, Sam Hauser's a knockdown shooter, but you can play guys like that off the floor sometimes, especially in a matchup against Milwaukee where they have Giannis and potentially have Chris Middleton, where guys who can attack off the wing. So I like the Bucks. I'm leaning towards the Bucks here at +4, just because I don't know if Boston's role guys go crazy again. The Bucks almost beat the Celtics last year. This is the first matchup they played this year. They almost beat them without Chris Middleton in the playoffs last year for the entire series. They took it to 7 games, and it took the Grant Williams, Kelly Olynyk performance. Right. He channeled with the 7 threes in Game 7 for Boston to win that series. So I'm not sold on the Celtics role guys just stepping up every night. It's become the norm where we've all just been like, oh, yeah, this is just what it is. I just don't know if that happens against all the good teams. It hasn't happened the last couple games against Orlando and Indiana, who are bad teams. So I think against a Bucks team that's top 3 in the league in defense, it's going to be a little bit tougher of a matchup. I'm partially just rooting for a close game here too, but I do think +4. I think the Bucks can at least hang around in this game.
So I kind of crapped on Boston's defense, but going through some of their numbers, especially over their last 10 games, which I think is a nice sample size to be able to look at for some recent trends. Both these teams are top 4 and top 7 in defensive rating over their last 10 games. Offensively, do you want to know the worst team in the NBA right now over the last 10 games offensively? It's the Boston Celtics. All the way behind the LA Clippers and the Miami Heat and the Houston Rockets, and even the Charlotte Hornets have a better offensive rating right now than the Boston Celtics over their last 10 games. It's really surprising to see them down at this number. However, if you follow the way that a lot of these numbers are moving, especially at some of the latest where they've been released, and we're talking about a game that was released at 220 on the total, and it's gone up. So I think it's an indication that both Sharps and Vegas are expecting more offense in this game relative to what we've seen from these two teams over the past 10 games, over their recent sample. And I'm going to go with that movement. I think 223, not only is there, certainly if you can find it at 220, I highly recommend you jump on that number as well. But even if you get it at 225 and a half or 220 or 222 and a half or 223, I think it's a good number. The history between these two teams is much more of an offensive back and forth than I think most would anticipate. Last few times that they've played, if you go back all the way to, 2019. So we're talking about a sample of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're talking about a sample of about 11 games, Pete. I think 9 of those 11 games have gone above this total of 223, including the last several. We're talking about 127, 121 the last time these two teams played. Back in April of last year. Milwaukee got a win against Boston, 117, 113. 103, 117. That was one of the lone games that didn't clear that number. But other than that, these are teams that are scoring plenty of points past this number. And even though the offense does not look good, I think you're looking at sort of a trend where you're getting a better number than you probably deserve here. And I think you're going to see a more improved Celtics offense start to show up for this game. Again, Smart being there is going to make a huge difference. He's such a catalyst for them. But I think there's value, even though there's been some movement on the over. I think it's going to continue to move as we get closer to Christmas Day. So I like the over here, 220, 223, wherever you can find it right now.
Yeah, I think if you're going to take the over, you almost want to take this one early, because if Middleton does get ruled in, I think also that if Chris Middleton's in the lineup, this is going to jump too. Obviously, you might have to buy yourself out of it if him and Smart get ruled out. But I'd be very surprised if both of them didn't play. I'd assume at least one of them's going to play. So yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think this is going to be a really good game. I just think Boston's kind of come back to earth, and Milwaukee hasn't been great offensively. So I think we should get a good matchup in this matchup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the fact that you're taking Boston at +4. I mean, that's a team. Last couple games, they've had Boston's number in. It's been at home. Last 3 games in Boston have actually gone to the Celtics, so they've kind of traded blows both home and away. But given the recent nature of Milwaukee, it certainly makes sense where you can get some good value there at +4. All right, we've gone through 3. Got 2 more to go. A game that there was a lot more excitement for at the beginning of the season, really not so much now. The Memphis Grizzlies going to San Francisco to take on the Golden State Warriors. A bit of a surprising line, I think, for most people if they're just tuning in and hadn't really been paying a lot of attention to what's going on right now with the Warriors. Warriors are 4-point dogs at home. The range is anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5, depending on where you look. If you're looking at the total right now for this game, it's hovering anywhere between 225.5 to as high as 227.5. Obviously, we know that Steph Curry going to be out. Klay Thompson, another injury to have to discuss here. What are the injury statuses on the Memphis side, and then any others from the Warriors that we need to be at least accounting for?
Yeah, first one on the Memphis side, Desmond Bane, very unlikely to play in this game. So that is their second leading scorer. Kind of a big blow, but he hasn't been playing for about a month now, and Memphis has had the second best net rating in the NBA over their last 10 games. So wouldn't be too concerned there. For the Warriors, obviously Steph being out is a massive, massive, massive concern. they're minus 12.6 points per 100 possessions this year when he's not on the floor. So about as big of a loss as you could have in the NBA. But the other one is concerning. He's probably going to play. Andrew Wiggins is supposed to return to the lineup when they get back from this road trip, which ended last night against Brooklyn. But he also hasn't played in a week or two. So now you're going to have maybe a little rusty Andrew Wiggins coming into this game. Klay Thompson sat out the second leg of a back-to-back the other day, but he should play. The real question is just, can like the Warriors, young guys, their role guys hold up? They have not at all so far this season. It's been very surprising that they're kind of letting this ride out with these guys, because I just don't see how this is maximizing anyone's prime of their, core four guys that are there. But I think, Ben, for me in this game, I'm leaning towards the Grizzlies. I think this is a pretty cut and dry bet, even though Memphis has been pretty bad on the road this year, because Golden State has gotten destroyed the last couple games without Steph. Got blown out by the Nets, got blown out by the Knicks. And, right now Memphis 3-7-1 against the spread as road favorites. Not going to read too much into that, because they're second in net rating over their last 10 games, and the Warriors are 26th. Yeah. So, at this point, it's just Golden State is, and unfortunately, hate to say it, because obviously they were so great last year and won the title. They're not a good basketball team right now. They don't defend anybody. They're 29th in the NBA in defensive rating on the road. And I think the big concern here, just going back and looking at games last season, the Warriors really struggled to guard Ja Morant when Gary Payton II wasn't in the lineup. Gary Payton II is in Portland now. So I don't know who the hell is guarding Ja Morant when they play in this game. It might be Moses Moody. It might be, maybe they try and throw a bigger guy like Jonathan Kuminga out there. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe Ty Jerome, Anthony Lamb. It's going to be a bloodbath. I think Memphis is going to have no problem scoring on them. The question is can like Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson go crazy to keep them in this? History so far this season tells us no. They have not been able to stay in games without Steph Curry. So I'm leaning towards Memphis in this one.
I'm with you there. There's certainly some concern given the fact that Memphis is not going to have Bane, and Golden State, they know how to defend. It's just a matter of want for them. Obviously, not having Thompson on the floor is a big deal. But what you just mentioned with Ja Morant, if there's nobody to be able to slow him down on high pick and roll situations, either he's just going to go right to the basket, which is what teams have been doing consistently against Golden State, or he's going to find open guys. Memphis still one of the better three-point shooting teams. Yes, they've been significantly better at home, but it's certainly a game that they're going to get up for. Golden State, you would think that given the nature of where they are right now, I know that they've had moments where they kind of just get everybody into gear when they need to make a run in the postseason. But this is one of those times, like, they're on the outside looking in for one of the better spots in the West right now. So if they're not going to get up for this game, I'm really not sure when that's going to be the case. And Memphis will still guard you. They'll still push pace, but they still have good perimeter defense. And that's going to be something that's going to be tested against them, especially, like you said, if Poole is making shots. So the 4 points feels to me like it's a reasonable line. If you can find it at 3.5, both you and I have been able to do so. I'm with you here. I think even though there's a part of you that wants to say, well, Golden State playing at home at Christmas is going to finally start to show up and show the talent that we all expected from them and start to play defense. There hasn't been anything in their recent history that indicates that's coming anytime soon. So I like Memphis here. I'm with you here at the minus 3.5. One game to go.
The fact that the Warriors, real quick, Ben, the fact that the Warriors are having to play like Ty Jerome, Anthony Lamb, like big minutes because they can't trust some of these young guys. Obviously, just like long term, I feel like they have to make a trade. But just you come into this game where Memphis, they're missing Desmond Bane, but they have proven guys coming into the lineup and backing him up. Like Zaire Williams is now, I believe he is back. Yeah, Zaire Williams is back for them. Like, they've added to this rotation as the season's gone along, because they didn't have Jaren Jackson Jr. to start the year. They didn't have Zaire Williams to start the year. So not having Desmond Bane, not nearly as big of a blow for them as not having Steph Curry is for the Warriors. It's just, this to me feels like it's a little bit of a respect the Warriors because they're at home, they're the defending champs line. Like, if you saw any team with the Warriors profile this year, advanced numbers, and you took away Golden State Warriors from it, you'd be like, this team's terrible. They should be 7-point dogs here. So I'm not buying into it in this game.
If you do want to consider the Warriors, you can take them as a first quarter bet. You're going to get, that maybe at around not -1, but maybe +1 if you want to jump on them for a money line team as well. They've actually still been, over their last 10 games, halfway decent in the first quarter at home. They're 8th in the NBA in net rating. Their offense has actually been pretty good at 120.8. Defensive rating, top 8, top 9. But given Memphis having some inconsistencies on the road, maybe Golden State finally puts in some effort. But once they take some of those guys out, Memphis has a much deeper cast to be able to hang with them and make a run in the second quarter. And that's always been, even when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were healthy, Peter, we've talked about this on Daily BetSlip before. Warriors have been a terrible second quarter team the moment that Steph Curry goes off the court. In fact, I believe he was still leading the NBA before his injury in on-off stats in the NBA this year. Almost had even higher numbers than Nikola Jokic from last year. We talked about how bad the Nuggets were when he was off the court. And then when he came back on, it was a similar situation for Steph this year.
Minus 12.6 points per 100 possessions when Steph's off the floor this year. So yeah, they struggle.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And then now you don't have Klay as well for Golden State. So maybe if you're looking for a play on the Warriors, you try to get them early in the first quarter at plus odds there. Final one to go. You got the Suns and the Denver Nuggets. That game being played in Denver, Colorado, the late game on the slate. Right now it's Nuggets -2. You also find the total anywhere between 228.5 and as high as 230.5. A couple of them actually even moved up over the course of this show, Peter. Seeing at DK, it's now at 231. Superbook has it 231.5. A couple of the offshore books have it there as well. And may even have it at Bet Rivers at 231.5. No, that's actually back down to 230. So shop around again if you're looking from a total perspective in this game. And as far as the spread, pretty much 2 across the board with a couple books on the verge between 2 and 2.5. What injuries do we need to know for the Suns and the Nuggets for the final game on Christmas?
Yeah, we'll start on the Nuggets side. Michael Porter Jr. has been out for a good stretch with a heel injury. He did not play on Tuesday against the Grizzlies. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to return for this game. With him with injuries, they've kind of taken a cautious approach, which is the right thing to do for a guy who's had some major back surgeries. So the heel injury might keep him out. Jamal Murray is day-to-day right now. He's kind of just a question of, load management. I doubt they load manage him on Christmas. I know Adam Silver would not enjoy that. No. So I'd assume he's going to play in this game. On the Phoenix side of things, I think you got to be really careful. Devin Booker missed their last couple games with a groin injury, scored 58 points, and then missed back-to-back games. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. I don't think it's serious considering he sat a game for it, played, and then sat. So think he'll be all right. And then Cam Johnson has done some shooting, but it doesn't look like he's going to be back from his torn meniscus. And then Cam Payne has also been out with a foot injury. So the Suns rotation has been very volatile this year. That's a team that part of the reason why I haven't bet this game yet, you have to check their injury report until a couple hours before the game because they've had guys in and out all season long, whether it's Booker, Ayton, Chris Paul, Cam Payne now has been one of those guys, Torrey Craig. So definitely a team to watch injury-wise. I think they're in a worse position injury-wise than Denver would be.
You know what's been really surprising to me about Phoenix this year is their inability of late to defend. We always talk about them being a really good team at home and a bit inconsistent on the road. But even at home, over their last 10 games, Phoenix has the 25th worst defensive rating in the entire NBA right now. And then if you look at their numbers on the road, not much better. The number is actually pretty much the same. Their defensive rating comes in at around 115.7 at home, 115.2 on the road. That's not going to get it done if you're a team that's looking to contend for a championship and make one final run really with this roster. I have some major concerns of them coming into Denver in the altitude and being able to slow down a Nuggets offense that has looked better over the last 10 games. We've never had really a whole lot of concerns, Pete, with regards to the Nuggets offense. I mean, that's always going to be what was carrying them throughout the course of the year. In fact, the Nuggets are 6th in the NBA right now in offensive rating over their last 6 games, a net rating team of plus 9.5. That's 7th in the NBA at home. Their defense, I know that's been kind of their bugaboo all year. They have been a little bit better. Give them a little bit of credit for that. They've moved up over their last 10 games to 9th overall in defensive rating at home. On the road, it tends to be a little bit more of a different story. But I think these two teams are going to push each other a little bit. I like the over here I was able to find it at 228 and went ahead and bet it before we got on the show today. We've already seen it move up between that 228 and 231.5. The Nuggets, especially at home, tend to play a little bit faster. Jokic is going to be able to get everybody involved. They've been making some more outside shots. And because of Phoenix's inability right now to defend the perimeter and also really have somebody to take care of Jokic when he's outside, Ayton's going to be able to try and slow him down a little bit, has that physicality inside, but Jokic can play all over the court, and I think that makes a pretty big mismatch for them. And Phoenix is just going to have to push pace. They're a slower pace team traditionally, but if Denver is moving the ball really effectively and they're making outside shots, I think it's going to force Phoenix to have to increase their pace as well. And ultimately, I just see this going above 228.
I don't hate that play at all. For myself, got end of the night, last game on Christmas. The last thing I want to worry about, Ben, is a team covering the spread. So I'm just going to take the Nuggets to win. I'm taking the Nuggets on the money line at this short number. A lot of things I love about this Denver team right now. Obviously, one of the best teams in the NBA at home. They're 10-3 straight up. Suns just 5-9 straight up on the road. But the big thing here, you kind of mentioned it, last 10 games where Denver's been. Overall in the season at home, the Denver Nuggets have the number 8 defensive rating in the NBA. On the road, overall, they're 24th. This is a completely different basketball team when they're at home. They just held the Grizzlies under 100 points, and the Grizzlies are one of the better offensive teams in the league. Obviously, if Devin Booker does miss this game, or he's at less than 100%, that is a huge benefit for the Nuggets because the Suns need him to score. They just lost to the Wizards without him in their last game. So, but the thing for me here, too, with Denver, Nikola Jokic has dominated the Suns over the last 2 seasons. Last 4 games against the Suns, he's averaging 27.3 points, 12.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists per game. Just absolutely destroying DeAndre Ayton. And honestly, whoever the Suns throw out there, like Bismack Biyombo's not tall enough to kind of handle him down low. Jock Landale, I mean, go ahead if you want, if you're Phoenix. I mean, he's a fine player, but he's not holding Nikola Jokic. Obviously, Michael Porter Jr. question. If he plays, it's going to be a huge boost to Denver. But anytime the Nuggets have been at home this year, I really like them, whether they have been, dogs or favorites. They've just been dominant at home. It's just the way it is with the altitude and everything coming into play in Denver. It's not easy for most teams. And as you mentioned, Suns have not been great defensively. So I like this Denver team just overall. The rotation is very deep. They got Bruce Brown in there for nothing this offseason. Jeff Green's been still playing well. Bones Highland is proving that he can be kind of a star off the bench for them. So I like this Denver team a lot. I'm not going to worry about the points. I believe it's at minus 140 at DraftKings. That's where I was seeing it. Like anything under minus 150, I'm willing to lay it on the money line in this game. I think they're going to win pretty easily. Yeah.
So you're looking at either the Nuggets at -2, Peter's on them over on the money line. You can actually find it a little bit cheaper right now at FanDuel as we speak. They currently have it at minus 136. A couple other places, depending on where you are. Bet Rivers, I think, has it at minus 132. So again, depending on your state, depending on your location, you can, of course, if you're going through some of our previews for these games over at BetSided and FanSided, you can find the best available odds. We have those embedded into every NBA story that we do. All right, before we say goodbye, let's take one last look at our plays for the entire Christmas slate on the board, both myself and for Peter Dewey. Starting with the 76ers and the Knicks. I like the Knicks first quarter minus 105 and the under 55.5. Peter also on the under, but at 219.5 for the entirety of the game. Lakers and Mavs, I'm going with the Lakers +8. Just feels like too many points. Also going to be backing LeBron James's points, rebounds, and assists, depending on where that number comes out. Peter on the opposite side, he has the Mavericks at a good number at -7.5. Bucks and Celtics, I like the over 223. Pete's on the Bucks at +4 on the road. Grizzlies and Warriors, I got the Grizz. He is going with the Grizzlies as well. And then Suns and Nuggets in the nightcap, like the Suns the Nuggets money line. I also like the over 228.5. That's something you can find actually at FanDuel because that parlay is actually at a much better number than where you can find it at the regular total at 230. And Pete ending his Christmas with a little money line play. Doesn't have to worry about anybody covering the spread. You can just take Denver at home where they've been terrific all season. Again, Appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a special edition of Daily Bet Slip as Pete and I were able to go through all 5 of the NBA Christmas Day games together. Also, make sure you guys stick around. Ian McMillan has his NBA Christmas Day bets that are available for you right here on YouTube, and plenty of content, plenty of analysis, plenty of props for all these Christmas Day games. You can find them on BetSide. You can find them on FanSided as well. We'll be linking out and tweeting all of these picks and plays as well. So follow us at BetSided on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. Pete, any final words before we head on out and get ready for some Christmas Day basketball?
Little Knicks make it 2 straight on Christmas. I will not give out Knicks money line as a bet, but you can almost guarantee that I'll be betting on the Knicks to win just to increase my Christmas joy. So,
all right. Well, I hope for your sake you're able to hit the music on Christmas and enjoy yourself with you and your family. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out. Happy holidays to all of you. He's Pete. I'm Ben. Also, shout out to JJ, our producer and director, for a job well done as well. Until next time. We'll talk to you soon. May all of your Christmas Day bets hit. We'll talk to you again on Daily Bet Slip. So long. Be good.